Kethevane, let me bring you in because the Americans have informed you that they're running behind schedule by a few minutes. Talk us through this actual the ceremony today. It's taking place at the American cemetery. The territory itself isn't French.
Yes, the French actually dedicated that land, the 172 acres of land, to the Americans. So the French still have property over the land, but they dedicated it to the Americans in 1956. There were already some people buried there, and they made that pretty much official, and that's when it became known as the U.S. Cemetery at Colleville-sur-Mer. And that is why this is presented as the President of the United States, Joe Biden, welcoming the President of France. So it is a U.S. Ceremony, and it was Jimmy Carter who was actually the first U.S. president to actually visit this U.S. cemetery at Colleville. And it has to be said, and you mentioned it, nearly 9,388 to be precise, graves of soldiers. It's actually 9,387, and then there was one other soldier that was buried there just about 10 years ago. There are some famous people, if you were, who are buried in that cemetery, including, of course, Theodore Roosevelt Jr., the son of President Roosevelt. He is buried there, as well as the Nyland brothers. Now, that name may not sound familiar to most of our viewers. Preston and Robert Nyland. They're actually the brothers that inspired the story behind the Steven Spielberg movie, Saving Private Ryan. That whole story was based around these two brothers, but they're not the only brothers. There are about 45 sets of brothers that are buried at that cemetery together. So it is a very symbolic place for American president. And since Jimmy Carter, this has really become a sort of tradition for American presidents when there are these big celebrations, whether it's the 70th, 75th, 80th, they always make a point to have that ceremony at the U.S. cemetery.
And Kethevane, we're going to have the U.S. President Joe Biden, who will be speaking today. He's due to make a big speech tomorrow. His goal really will be to reassure America's allies that America is not going away, but it's a little tough to do when there's an election around the corner. And the presumptive Republican nominee, Donald Trump, well, we don't know what way he stands on many issues.
Absolutely. This day, of course, is a day of commemorations of what happened in the past, but the present is obviously looming very large. The present of the war in Europe and the present of that U.S. presidential campaign that is really gearing up towards its final stretch. We're 5 months away from the election, and part of what Joe Biden will be doing, even though he's going to be paying tribute to the soldier who gave their lives to fight for freedom, he's going to put that in perspective with what is happening today. And it really fits the message that he's been repeating ever since he was elected to the White House. He has been talking about this battle between democracies and autocracies, this fight for freedom, the fact that the world is at an inflection point, and there is no better stage than Normandy for that message to be heard. And of course, that speech that he's going to be given tomorrow is at the Pointe du Hoc. And 40 years ago, it was Ronald Reagan who gave a speech at that same exact place, talking about exactly the same topics. At the time, it was the battle versus the Soviet Union. This time, it is a battle in a way against Russia, facing the Russian invasion of Ukraine, but also the battle for those around the world that are wanting to break those transatlantic ties. All of the things that those soldiers, he is likely to say, fought for, and many of them sacrificed for. And there was a line also that by Emmanuel Macron yesterday during some of the ceremonies, talking about the fact that many of these people made the ultimate sacrifice for us today to have the freedom that we have.